Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Ian Chiquino, and today I'm going to cover a strategy video for Zerg players. This is going to be a very safe, very strong Roach opening. So this is a game from the previous MLG. This was the one at Dallas, and this is on patch 1.3 for all those curious out there. Now we're just going to go through the simple build order that IdrA is going to do here for his Roach opening. It's very strong. I think this Roach opening against Protoss is one of the strongest openings as Zerg versus Protoss from my own experience playing here. So you can see pretty standard opening so far for IdrA. He's going to go for that Overlord at 9 and just drone up to that. So pretty standard so far. And he's going to send his first Overlord out to go for his scout. Now he's going to put this Overlord up here at this front position for the time being, it looks like. And he's eventually going to move that over here to this position to keep an eye on this expansion. Now that's going to be critical. Just to know whether or not your Protoss opponent is expanding or not. So now we can see IdrA going for some more drones. Now he's going to drone up to 13, and I think he's eventually going to drone up to I think it's a 14 spawning pool. So there we go. We got up to 14. Now he's going to start saving. He's going to go for a pool. And looks like Huck is harassing here a little bit with the probe. He's going to try and do that mineral trick here, so you can just put a drone on that to make him run away. But anyways. There we go. We got up to, actually, he's going to get to 15, so he's going to put his pool down at 15. Now, this build involves a little bit later of a gas, but that's not going to be too much of a problem because with this build, you will be able to get Zerglings out before, Zerglings with Zergling speed out before the standard 4-gate rush does happen. So, puts a little bit more emphasis on minerals than it does gas here at the beginning. So you can see IdrA coming out here and going to try and go for an expansion, but it does get blocked. So he's going to go for going to get gas here anyways instead of actually going for an expansion. Now the majority of good Protoss players, at least at high level, will block this. So this build is going to assume that your Protoss opponent is going to block your expansion, but it's not going to be blocked for too long because as you can see here, he's going to make 4 Zerglings, and that's going to allow him to push out and then kill this pool here, or sorry, kill this pylon here very easily. So we also saw him throw up a gas there a little bit ago, and he's going to make his queen also at I think this was a 17 queen. But anyway, let's see how this plays out. So there where the extractor does finish, he's only going to put 2 drones on it because you don't need three gas that early this far into the game, because this is basically going to be a Roach centered build. You do just get a couple of Zerglings at the beginning just for scouting purposes, number 1, and any type of early defense. So we do have that queen now almost done, and then he actually did cancel that pylon, so he didn't even have to kill it. But normally what happens here is if they let the pylon finish, you use the Zergling, sculpt the pylon very quickly with those 5 units, and then throw down your expansion at about 20. So the queen is going to come out, and we can see here we got 2 guys on gas. Now he's going to spend his first 100 gas on the spawning pool upgrade for the metabolic boost, which will allow his Zerglings to run a lot faster and whatnot. So we can see him come up here scouting. He sees Chrono Boost on the Cybernet export, and this is a critical point of this build, is just simply scouting. You can see up here he's scouting. Double gas is also very important. You have to know as a Zerg player what your Protoss opponent is doing, because it's extremely critical whether or not they're going to go for a single base play, they're going to go for some type of teching play, or whatnot. So anyways, we have a second queen coming out now. And this queen is going to basically, he's going to lay a creep tumor and then just run straight to this expansion. It's a pretty good timing. So you can see him come out there, lay a creep tumor. You definitely need to have this creep tumor connecting your base here. It's extremely critical. So we had the spawning pool start researching metabolic boost there. And then we can see he's going to make a couple more drones. You don't need any more Zerglings except these initial 4. You can see he's got 1 here at the Zelnaga Tower. He's got this Overlord over here on the right, keeping an eye on this expansion. And then just went over here, spread out on the left, doing a pretty good job of spreading out Overlords, and still using these Zerglings just running around, going to the Zelnaga Tower and just make sure there's no proxy pylons. So we can see right as this hatchery finishes, we have a transfer of drones. Let's see how many transfer. He transfers 5 over, pretty good number. And you can see he added a third drone here. He added that 3rd drone when this metabolic boost was about 25%. So that seems to be the timing he's going for here. And you just got to poke quite a lot. You can see here he's suiciding in his Overlord at about 6 minutes, just to see, okay, how many gateways does he have. It's very important to scout that information out. And usually you won't be able to get too much information if the Protoss player is confident, but you have to do it nonetheless, just to see if you can get the information out. So from right now, all he sees is one gateway, and then this one finished. So he does have warp gates, but he is on 2 gas. He has this low ground pylon, which doesn't necessarily mean too much, but you really have to use these Zerglings and scout for an expansion, scout for the type of units he's making, and see what type of composition he's going. If he's going for mostly sentries, more than likely he's going to expand, but I've seen Protoss players that just attack anyway. So now we can see as soon as he gets enough, I think this was at, let me check the food count on this. This was at, at about 20, he puts down his hatchery, right? Then his queen, overlord, zergling speed. And at 35 food, he gets his lair tech. And then at 36 food, he made his Roach Warren. So you do this, you get the upgrade on your hatchery up to lair, and you get the Roach Warren at about the same time. Timing works out pretty well. So you can see here the creep teams are pushing out, going to connect both bases. That's going to be pretty nice. And now he's making 10 more Zerglings. Now, at this point, you can see the timer is about 640. So this is just preemptive defense against a possible 4-gate play. So he has scouted the expansion there. But now here's one thing I want to talk about. Just because you see the expansion doesn't mean they're not going to attack you for a while, because there are a lot of Protoss players who will put up an expansion, fake it, and then at the last second cancel it, and then attack you with like a 4 warp gate or even a 5 warp gate attack. So you have to keep constantly scouting this expansion. Suicide Zerglings in here, you still have a couple with speed. It shouldn't be too hard just to make sure this thing finishes, and that's extremely critical. So he just does get 10 Zerglings out here right now just for a little bit of defense before this Roach Warren finishes. So we also saw him start his second gas. That's going to be extremely useful, and he's going to put up his third gas here rather shortly after that, because you're going to need quite a bit of gas if you're going to do a lot of roach production as well as continued attack. So let's jump back into this. So you can see him going in there poking again. Very, very important. So we got this Roach Warren just now finishing, a little bit before the hatchery. And one thing I want to talk about here, whenever he went into suicide that Overlord, he knew he was going to lose the Overlord, so he made an extra Overlord to compensate that. So make sure you do that. You don't want to get supply blocked in this build at all. You can see him come up here doing some scouting. He actually forces a force field right there. He's going to kill a sentry. Nope, he's not going to kill a sentry, but he did do a very good job of, actually, he's going to kill a lot. It's pretty nice. So on the minimap, he sees this push up here, not too much to be worried about, but he is making some roaches at this point. So we got 7 roaches coming out. This seems to be the number he prefers to go with. Just make 7 roaches. So he's got 10 Zerglings out, 7 roaches. That's a pretty good army to deal with this attack. Now, we can see at about, what is it, 67 food. 67 or abouts food. He's going to get Burrow, and then about 10 seconds later, he's going to start Tunneling Claws upgrade. Now, this timing with this is you want to get Burrow first because it requires, actually, yeah, he does get Burrow first, and then he does get Tunneling Claws. So you want to get those at about the same time. They finish pretty much exactly the same time, only 10 in-game seconds different. So this is going to allow him to get Roaches with Burrow, which is going to completely crush a sentry-based push. And this is what's very, very strong about this build, and this is why I like it so much. Alright, we can see him adding on a 4th gas here, and just continuing to drone. He's going to throw up 7 more drones. Now, it's about 9 minutes into the game. Now, at this point in the game, anything can happen, so this build kind of alters depending on your situation. But after he made those 7 roaches, he feels pretty confident that he's not going to get attacked pretty soon. I mean, he saw the expansion over here. He hasn't seen it complete yet, but he does have a Zergling spotter, which is extremely important. But he's making 7 more drones to come up here and try and saturate the space, so I think it's a pretty safe play. Now, you're not going to want to be aggressive with this build. The only thing you want to be aggressive with are your Zerglings. Just run in there, run in 1 or 2 to poke with to see what you can see. But other than that, you want to keep your roaches back, play defensive, and wait for your Burrow and Tunneling Claws to finish. So you can see he's even putting down a 3rd here at this point. That's definitely viable on this map. So now you just need to keep an eye on this. So he sees a push out coming. He's going to make 3 more roaches and actually start Carapace upgrade. But completely play defense with these roaches and just scout with those Zerglings. Just keep an eye up. So he even sees a cannon. He sees this finishes. So it's going to be a little bit before he does get attacked. So we can see Burrow is finished. So he's going to be up here. He's going to be able to get the drop on his opponent if he decides to push. And just continuing to scout with those Zerglings. So you can see right now he's going to start pumping out some more roaches. And this is the point where eventually he's going to... that's basically the end of this roach opening. So you can see right now he's got the roaches coming out, he's got the Burrow, and He's got the Burrow. He's even starting an Evolution Chamber. He's got Tunneling Claws upgrade. So this is just a really smooth opening. So at any point in this game, whenever the Protoss player attacked him, he would have been pretty safe of a build. You might have had to throw down a Spine Crawler or two if you scout and attack incoming. Like if you see a 4-gate, if you see like 1 gas, no second gas, just 1 gas, probably expect an attack. You just have to be aware of these signs that the Protoss player will show you that you have to be aware of in case an attack is imminent. So Spine Crawlers maybe need to throw down. It just all comes down to scouting with Zerglings. It's extremely important you do that to make this build work. Because if you get caught off guard by an attack from a Protoss player as Zerg and you don't have enough larvae, or you don't have enough money, or you don't have Overlords to build an army at the time, it can hurt you pretty badly. So at this point, he does throw up an Evolution Chamber. He's going to start getting massive attack upgrades for his Roaches. And then eventually he's going to add on Infestors. But that is just the basic Roach opening for this build. I want to show you guys. We can kind of let this roll through here for a second. He does have Overlord speed upgrade, so now he can just scout as he feels with this position. But he's basically just going to play defensive at this part. He's going to get Roach speed upgrade, which is extremely important also. But continuing creep tumor pushing is extremely important also because Roaches move so much faster on creep. But we see this third does get up and he's going to start droning that, but you can see just massing a large number of Roaches. Roaches do very well against Warpgate armies with the Burrow upgrade and Tunneling Claws. I'm going to speed this up here so we can see that. Just going to show you the effectiveness of these Roaches. And there we got a infestation pit being thrown down. So let's just get up here and get some action real quick. So his opponent was playing pretty safe this game, but eventually he does push up here and he's going to go for an attack. He actually did the smart thing. I think he waited until he got an observer before he decided to attack. So that kind of negates the Burrow a little bit. They can attack you, but it really the whole point of Burrow is to be able to crush a sentry heavy army, and that's what a lot of players are doing recently. They either go for the expansion and then push with like 5-6 warp gates, or they just cancel the expansion and go with a 4 warp gate. Now, if they attack you off 1 base, 4 gate, 1 gas, that's where the Zergling speed comes in, because the Zergling speed will finish before the 4 warp gate hits you, so you'll be safe there. And in that situation, you can just throw down Spine Crawlers and then mass Zerglings, and then try and fight it off that way. And your Roach Warren will come up a little bit later than that, and you can add in Roaches after you fight off the first attack. So it has stages of safety built into it, which is extremely smart. And gonna have a fight here pretty soon, so I'll just end up on this fight. You can see the Protoss player pushing up, killing creep tumors to slow down those Roaches. It's a pretty smart move. And here we got the big attack coming out. We can see that he had that upgrade here for his Infestor, so they come out with more energy. I just forget Pathogen Glands upgrade, and he's finishing his +1 attack upgrade. So this seems to be the timing he's waiting for to go actually on the attack here. So he's waiting for his Roaches Roaches to get the +1 upgrade finished, and he's waiting for his Infestors to come out. I think he made 7 of them with Pathogen Glands upgrade. So this is the timing that IdrA was actually waiting for to actually go on the aggressive. So you can see it's about 14 minutes in the game. He's going to decide to go on and attack. So we can see here he's actually going to start to pick a fight here pretty soon. Now, with the Infestor change, Infestors are more focused on DPS now as opposed to just crowd control, because their stun is reduced in half, but their damage is actually, their DPS is actually doubled. So now you're just going to basically start another upgrade for attack too, because with this upgrade you're just going to continuing to upgrade your Roach's your Roach's damage throughout the entirety of this game, and use these Infestors for early game defense. And you can see up here he's going to actually send some more Scout Zerglings out here. Very important, just keep those Elmog towers as long as possible. But here's a fight. They're actually going to go up for a push, and we're going to see how this goes down. So just basically push up there, throw down Fungal Growth, try and spread out Fungal Growth as much as possible. Good spread on that all over the place. And you can see here, force fields are down, but it doesn't matter. You just Burrow, walk straight underneath the entire army, pop up right on top of them, and just start doing a lot of damage. You can see Immortals fall, no problem. Throwing down some Infested Terran. And then he's going to kill this Immortal and then just run away. So at that point, he killed a lot of sentries. You can see his opponent Huck is only down to 2 sentries and 1 Immortal. He killed 2 Immortals, a lot of sentries, and he's making 20 Roaches at this point. So even though he lost a lot of his army there, his reinforcements will allow him to crush this army, not a problem. And you can see all these roaches coming out. He even had 3 more infestors coming. And at this point, he's just got a really strong army, and Huck is actually forced to retreat. He's going to get a complete flank on him here. Good fungal growth, and this is basically just the power of the roaches. You're going to lose a lot of roaches, don't worry about that, but just your production you have built into your build is going to make it really strong. And you can see here, he's just going to clean this up pretty easily. Even with an observer up here, it doesn't matter, just so many roaches. He did a really good job of picking off sentries and immortals. That's what you want to focus whenever you're going into these fights with these roaches, is sentries and immortals, just because they're so gas heavy. And that's basically going to wrap up the end of this game here. In case you're curious, IdrA does go on to win this. It's a pretty good game. But I'm going to post this replay and post the build order in the description. And if you have any questions or comments about this strategy tutorial, just post them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. And that's it for me. Good luck, have fun.